Welcome back to the AT Chat. Today we're going to talk about The Last Jedi comic issue number 1. If you are new here, please subscribe for more content and give me a thumbs up. So, The Last Jedi comic issue number 1 is a pretty great read. It retreads beats from the film while adding more layers of context for our fans to ponder about. What's really interesting is what they left out of this comic. There are literally no jokes from the film. I'm not sure if that was the decision in hindsight of the backlash, or if the writer Gary Whitta wanted to have his comic be concise and fast-paced. The first page opens up in Act 2, and we are reading Luke's inner thoughts on the Force. We get more information about his headspace while he's on the island, as well as a very interesting fact on his feelings towards the Jedi. Luke feels like Padawans were child soldiers, at least this is how I'm reading it. He's also aware that some presence or something is on its way to confront him. We are also introduced early on to the fact that he's cut himself off from the Force and how hard that is on him. One thing I didn't like in the comic was one little comment from Leia that seemed rather modern. The line is, "Always with the big ships." Sometimes I have to ask myself what they're compensating for. Well, I guess now we have our first Star Wars dick joke. Hux is also way more menacing in this comic adaptation. He's a weasel, and he's arguing with Kennedy, who's obviously way more educated in space combat. And again, I think Kennedy really is one of the best characters in the new trilogy, even if he was just relegated to death, but I really like how ferocious he was on screen and in the comic. When Rey meets Luke on the island, it is again a little more streamlined. Luke's throwing of the lightsaber definitely comes across as a little less goofy, and I love the internal comment on the whole encounter. A child with a worthless antique, and delusions of grandeur, not what I expected. A major difference between the comic and the film is when Chewie enters Luke's hut in his fit of rage. Rey lets Luke know that Kylo Ren has killed Han, which immediately shakes Luke. He immediately regrets having cut himself off from the Force for so long because he knows he could have stopped this. The Snoke scene with Kylo pretty much plays out just like it does in the film, with some minor exceptions. He tells Kylo that Darth Vader would have been ashamed of him. Snoke really is the ultimate emotional manipulator. I'm sure hearing that his idol would be ashamed of him was enough to really put him over the edge and cause that destruction in the elevator. I definitely wish this line would have been in the film, as well as Kylo's immediate reaction to hearing that. The rest of the comic is essentially a beat-by-beat version of the film, and overall I highly suggest picking this up. And if you're really into reading the comics and the books, this adds some new layers of context for fans who loved the film. It might even be an interesting read for those who are still on the fence on if they even like the movie. But either way, highly recommend picking this up at the comic store and giving it a read. It's solid, the art is solid, and I'm really excited to read issue number 2. So, AT signing off, buy this comic.